Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Renaissance Room podcast. I know you're probably tired of hearing me because this is probably like my third podcast this week. Your girl has a lot to say. I'll be reading, I'll be living, I'll be observing. And I just wanted to come on really quick and I wanted to say this. I think for me personally, and what I would call is actually like, because it's really becoming more refined, right? I would actually consider my line of purpose in the work that I do something like a youth ministry, right? And like, I know you're probably thinking churchy, but it doesn't really give that, right? It definitely is built on principles such as like integrity, honesty, kindness, love, patience, all those things. But like, it's founded in literacy, all of the, things like that. So, I'm a youth advocate, I guess you could say. And something that I was thinking about this morning, because, I'll be listening to my music. And especially when I go back to the days where I used to listen to music, like back in high school, I don't know what that is, but that's been bringing me a lot of joy lately. Like listening to, Pink and like, what else was I listening to? Oh, like, Sam Smith and like Adele and you know what I mean? Like I don't know why, but that's just been bringing me so much joy. And it's something about that music that I just always find like very uplifting, and I guess you could say the genre of pop. And I miss that. I miss when times were a little bit more simpler. I don't think that anything new has emerged right during our political climate per se, but I do think our ways of engaging with the political atmosphere, right, in political environments have become more and more just mainstream, right? And it's everywhere we go. And so it's just a different time, right? I just remember liking songs, listening to things, doing things, partaking in things, right? And really just seeing the humanity in people. And I miss that, And so it's nice to always kind of be able to disconnect and connect in that way and connect with those parts of myself that remind me of a more simpler time, even if it's just in my mind. So I say all that to say, I was coming on. I was listening to 7 Years by, I don't know his last name. It's Graham something. Let me see if I have it on my Spotify. Okay, cool. It's not there. All right. So yeah, 7 Years by Graham something. And I love that song so much. I remember when I was a little girl, I would listen to that song because we're going to have a conversation at some point. And like I said, in all that I do, I'm so grateful to just have lived and learned, you know what I mean? To really be able to pour into, just the young people that I'll come across in my ministry and the work that I do. But I remember just having such a fear of death. And I don't know if it's something that's very prevalent amongst all black kids, right? In some of the readings that things that I've read, I've seen people talk about, Jesus Christ, my words are so botched. It's because I'm on a limited time. I'm trying to get my thoughts out. I'm sorry, y'all. I've seen people talk to young black kids, and what seems to be very common is like this sense of, talk about nihilism, right? It's not really nihilism. It's more so this sense of apathy within a lot of young black kids, especially those who grow up, in poor communities where they don't really seem to care like what happens, right? And that obviously shows up in things like grades and stuff like that. But you start to really get underneath a lot of that. And, you hear every summer you see things, right? Little kids are being shot on the playground, gun violence, all these different things emerging. And you think about what that does to a person. And so I know for me personally, though I had not seen a lot of my classmates, lose their lives, there was a lot of gun violence in my family. I remember literally being like third, fourth grade. And I swear it was like I went to a funeral every year up until I was like in the seventh grade. It was crazy. You know what I mean? And sometimes it would be two funerals a year. Sometimes, and it was just like all of my cousins, like my male cousins, were losing their lives due to gun violence. And I do think on some level that did impact me. I think I started to feel very just depressed. I was very just to myself as a kid, not really having a lot of hope for the future, but just not really sure, how these funerals were impacting me, right? How the loss of life was impacting me. And I do think in part, like I was very just kind of numb. So I remember when this song came out, like, and I was listening to it and I was like, I might have been in junior high. I don't think I was in high school. I don't think I was a freshman in college, but I might have been like, high school, whatever. And I just remember playing that song and I would be crying, right? Because like in the song, he talks about like, you're going to be, once I was 11 years old, then I'll be 12 years old, then I'll be 30 years old. He's like, will I think the world is broke, or will I, have someone that'll be there with me when I'm lonely? Soon I'll be 60 years old. Like, and it's like, it's such a song that's just so real, and it makes you think about life in such a different way. And so I'm coming on to say this, and this is something I'm going to preface in my work, but I think that this is important for anybody who has a young person in their lives. We got to teach young people how to live, right? Like, I talked to you guys about this in the last episodes. I'm not really trying to get on my podcast and tell y'all how to live, because I think everybody who's under the sound of my voice is grown, right? And I'm not here to influence anybody's decisions. I'm not here to say what you should and what shouldn't do. Like, at this point, I've got enough understanding and context to know that, hey, we all doing the best we can with the cards that we've been dealt. So I can't tell you what to do with your life. But when it comes to these young people, I think we got to start talking about the consequences. I think we got to start talking about what it is to live a good life, because I think within the Black community specifically, there's so much normalized dysfunction, right? We normalize young Black boys and Black men walking out of their homes. Right. And I know I'm not just here to talk about marriage, and that's not what I'm trying to say. What I am saying is that when something is cool, when we think something is cool, we no longer look at it from a consequential lens, right? Like, we no longer look at it like, man, listen, being away from your kid is going to have a very long lasting impact on your life. Right? Like, and I don't even mean to laugh. I'm being dead serious. Like, that's going to have a very long lasting impact on your life. And I just think, when you're growing up in these environments, there's just not enough knowledge. There's not enough wisdom. There's not enough people to really tell you the real, like, you know what I mean? And we normalize it so much. So you have people who are living with anger, living with deferred dreams, altered futures, right? People who've lost their way, never made it back. And, that sense of apathy is harmful, not just on a communal level because of violence, but more so just to the individuals, right? How many souls have we lost, right? How many purposes have we lost? Like, people who've had really great dreams and things that could have been done to, move the needle forward, and all of that has been thwarted. So I just think it's important that we talk to young men and young women, really. I know we talk a lot to young women. I would say young men. And I remember telling somebody in my family that I had a passion to work with young boys and just kind of like pour into them in that way. And they were like, nah, you need to just work with little girls. Like, I think you would be great with working with little girls. And it's unfortunate because I think, one, I'm not really going to take what this person has to say like to heart, but I think it's unfortunate because I think that there's always a willingness to work with young girls, right? And I do both. Like, at least that's where I feel like my work has progressed to, right? Like, before I was more so just like mentoring young girls, but I just started to realize that there was nobody and no programs for young boys. And I'm like, why is that? Right. And I think it's unfortunate because I think so often, people are quick to start a ministry, start something in regards to young girls, but never for young boys. And one thing that I seem to notice, which is very weird, I don't know what this is. Maybe y'all can let me know in the comments. I don't know what it is about Black men and boys, and like some Black men in their relationships with their sons. Like, it seems to be more common where there's like this disconnect. Like, I don't know if it's hatred. I don't know what it is, but it's like it's low-key hostile. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand it. It's like there's this sense of discomfort. There's this sense of like disconnect. There's this sense of like keeping him at arm's length. Like, I have no idea what that is. And I don't think it's just the ways in which they're socialized and he's trying to make them strong. Like, I don't really know, but it's very disheartening because it's like, okay, if we're constantly talking about what young boys are not getting and what boys are not getting, and yet no one is giving it to them, then what do we do in that situation? Right. And it is unfortunate, right? I am a woman. I can't teach him how to be a man, but I do think that for us specifically as Black people, I'm not even going to hold you. I just don't think we really have time to sit and talk about and argue over like who can do what and who can do what. You know what I mean? I think we need people who are willing and able, you know what I mean? And that's just real. Like, you talk about like calling on your life. You talk about, things that God has put in your heart to do and things that you should probably do that's like purposeful. He just needs somebody who's willing and able. You know what I mean? Because I think for us, the reality is it just don't be that. Like, you need people who are willing and able. And I don't know why we tell women that they can't teach men this and that. Like, I think when you're talking about boys, you're talking about, people who are being shaped and molded and developmentally in need of guidance. Like, I think the main thing would be teach them something. Right. Like, I don't really know. I went to my local exhibition. I'm getting ready to wrap up, but I went to this exhibition and it was talking about young boys. It was about young boys who were incarcerated, and just reading their stories, and just kind of seeing certain things. I thought it was interesting. A lot of, what was bringing them joy, or because it was like letters and things that they were sharing. It was actually their mother. It was their mother. It was their grandmother. So I say all that to say, I think specifically for young boys who fathers have walked away for whatever reason. They're not there, right? Like, I don't think we should just say, well, we can't teach them nothing. We can't do nothing with them. You know what I mean? Because it's like, that's still a soul. That's still a child. That's still somebody who's in need of development. I think if you have wisdom that you can impart, I think that's good enough, So I don't really think I'm here about teaching them how to be a man. That's not what I'm trying to do, right? And I don't think that's what anybody is trying to do. But I do think that, people need that. And so I think that we need that more specifically, because I just think that we've normalized so much dysfunction that it's not going to have a consequence until you're much older and you're paying that price. And because by that time, a lot of people who are either in that state of mind are so reprobate in their mind, they don't even see nothing wrong with how they're living. They don't even realize that they're suffering, that their lives did not have to look as crazy and chaotic as it is. They also could be prideful. Like, they may not have a platform. We don't really know. But I just think that so many young black boys specifically, and a lot of black kids really, are led to live lives of destruction. I think in our community, we really normalized lives of destruction. We've normalized lives of chaos, and it don't have to be this way. You may not be the richest person in the world. I'm not here to teach you how to be the richest person, but I think I have enough wisdom to say, hey, listen, this is how you can bounce back from setbacks. These are some paths you could take that keep you on a straight and narrow and an honest path that would yield some good fruit in your life, And I just think that we have a little bit too much of the opposite, so much so that people are paying the price for something that they don't even know that's about to cost them, their latter years. Like, the stuff that we normalize, you don't see the repercussions of that. And so people old, washed up, and y'all ain't looking at them because you're like, this person is a degenerate. But you don't realize that they came to be that way because of the choices that we normalize today as young black people. And so I just think we should just be, I just think we should just tell them that. Now, I know for me personally, I'm going to do my part. I'm here to share the lesson with you. Peace.